The chamber was bathed in the warm, fading hues of dusk as I sat cross-legged on the worn wooden floor, my lute resting gently against my knees. Outside, the last rays of sunlight filtered through the latticed window, painting golden patterns that danced lightly over scattered parchment and ink-stained manuscripts. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and the faint aroma of wild herbs Leora had left on the windowsill. A reminder of the small comforts I had come to cherish in this quiet refuge. My fingers hovered over the strings, hesitant at first, before pressing down to draw a tentative note. It was softer than the powerful, commanding chords of the forgotten tune that had both gifted and cursed me. This was not a melody meant to bend wills or command kings, but one that sought to soothe, to bind wounds unseen, and to whisper promises of peace. Each note carried the weight of my journey, the desperation, the sacrifice, the lessons etched deeply into my soul. As the melody unfolded, delicate and intricate, it wove through the room like a gentle breeze. The lost harmonies of the ancient language, once a source of dread, now lent subtle flourishes that hinted at balance rather than domination. It was as if the music itself was learning to breathe anew, shedding the shadows of its past. The door creaked softly, and Leora stepped inside, her presence steady and grounding. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, her keen green eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. For a moment, she said nothing, simply listening as the melody wrapped around us. Her usual stern expression softened, a rare and silent acknowledgement passing between our shared understanding that this song was different. It held no threat, only hope. "It's beautiful," she said quietly, voice low but sincere. "Not the power you once sought, but something truer." I nodded, setting the lute aside. "I want this to be our beginning, not an end. A song that mends rather than breaks." In the days that followed, I refined the melody, drawing from the fragments of the forgotten tune and the lessons Melis had imparted about the lost language's delicate balance. Each practice was a meditation, a cautious exploration of magic that did not consume but nurtured. Leora remained my steadfast companion, her unwavering support a balm to my weary spirit. Word of the new melody spread quietly, reaching ears both wary and hopeful. When the morning arrived for the first public performance, we gathered in the courtyard beneath a sky brushed with dawn's gentle colors. Villagers, friends, and allies assembled, their faces etched with suspicion and longing. As I lifted my lute and began to play, the notes mingled with the chorus of waking birds, creating a harmony that felt natural and whole. The melody rose and fell like a breath, weaving through the crowd, softening the lines of worry and fear. Eyes closed, hands unclenched, and a fragile peace blossomed in the shared space between us. It was not a magic of control or conquest, but one of connection, a reminder that music, at its core, was a gift meant to unite. As the final notes faded into the morning air, a gentle breeze stirred the leaves overhead, carrying the melody beyond the courtyard walls and into the waking world. I felt a quiet surge of hope, delicate yet powerful, blooming within me. The path ahead was uncertain, and the shadows of the past lingered still. But in this new song lay the promise of healing and a future rewritten. Leora stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed the gathering. "This is our new beginning. Together, we will learn to wield music not as a weapon, but as a bond." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and I knew that this melody was more than notes and rhythms. It was a hymn to resilience, to balance, and to the harmonized fate we all shared. Yet, even as the dawn brightened, I could not shake the lingering question: could a melody born from fragments of a cursed song truly mend the scars left behind? The answer would unfold in the days to come, as we stepped cautiously into the light of a new harmony. The day had been long, the sky a bruised canvas of fading light as I lingered in the quiet solitude of my cabin. The weight of the forgotten tunes' silence pressed heavily on my mind, mingling with the ache of memories long buried beneath the relentless march of my journey. It was then, as the evening's chill crept through the cracked window panes, that a figure appeared at the threshold, resolute, bearing the unmistakable silhouette that had haunted my dreams and my waking hours alike. Eryndor, my sister. I froze, breath caught in my throat, the familiar tempest of emotions crashing through me. Hope, resentment, and an aching longing I'd tried to quell. Her eyes, sharp and wary, met mine with a flicker of recognition tempered by the years that had stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm. She stepped inside without hesitation, the faint rustle of her worn cloak echoing in the stillness. "Eryndor," she said, her voice a mixture of steel and softness. "I have come because the winds of change demand we stand together, not apart." The words hung in the air, fragile yet potent. I struggled to find my voice, the years of silence threatening to choke me. "Eryndor, I never thought I'd see you again." The admission tasted bitter, yet it was honest, a crack in the armor we'd both worn so fiercely. As the fire sputtered and caught flame, casting flickering shadows on the walls, we settled across from each other in the dim room. The silence between us was thick, laden with unspoken apologies and the weight of past betrayals. I studied the lines etched on her face, the tired fierceness in her eyes that mirrored my own. "I heard of your music," she said finally, "of the power you wield and the cost it exacts." "It is a burden I bear alone," I replied, my fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of my lute. "But it has brought me here to this moment, to you." She nodded slowly, the walls around her heart softening just a fraction. "We have fought on opposite sides for so long. My rebels against the magical order you once sought to command. Yet, perhaps there is a melody that can bind us rather than rend us apart." Her words struck a chord deep within me, stirring memories of our childhood when music had been our shared language, untainted by ambition or pain. I dared a tentative smile, a fragile bridge across the gulf of years. "Then let us find that song together." Outside, Leora stood sentinel, her keen green eyes sweeping the encroaching darkness. Her presence was a steady reassurance, a reminder that while the past bore its wounds, the future was still ours to shape. I caught her gaze through the window, a silent exchange of trust and resolve. The night deepened as Eryndor and I spoke into the hours, unraveling the tangled threads of our history and weaving new hopes from the frayed edges. She spoke of the rebels' weariness, of their desire to end the violence that music magic had sown. I shared the burden of the forgotten tune, its deadly allure and the sacrifice it demanded. In that quiet room, amidst the flickering flames and shadows, we began to mend what had been broken. Our voices, once discordant, found a tentative harmony, a promise that the future could be different. The melody was no longer a weapon or a curse, but a fragile hope, a song of reconciliation and peace. As dawn's first light crept through the window, I felt the weight on my chest ease slightly, replaced by a cautious optimism. The path ahead remained uncertain and fraught with peril, yet for the first time in many years, I was not alone. My sister was by my side, and together, perhaps we could rewrite the song of our fractured world. But even as hope blossomed, the shadows of the past lingered, whispering their warnings. Could our fragile alliance withstand the storm to come? Could the melody of our shared fate withstand the discord of those who sought to keep us divided? The answers lay ahead, in the uncertain notes of a new beginning. And so, with Illyria's hand tentatively clasped in mine, I prepared to face whatever dawn might bring. The quiet refrain of our renewed bond echoing softly within my soul, a haunting hope in the lingering silence. The forest glade was quiet, save for the soft crackle of the fire and the distant chorus of night creatures. Leora sat close to the warmth, her auburn braids catching the firelight as she stared into the dancing flames. The tension in her shoulders slowly began to ease, but the weight in her chest remained. Eryndor watched her from across the fire, his lute resting gently on his lap, fingers idly tracing its worn edges. The air was thick with unspoken words, a fragile silence that begged for release. Finally, Leora broke the quiet. "I never told you the whole story," she began, voice low and steady, "about the mission that cost us those men. I've carried it like a wound, hidden beneath my armor and resolve. But it haunts me still." Eryndor nodded, his dark eyes softening with empathy. "You don't have to carry it alone anymore," he said gently. Her gaze lifted to meet his, a flicker of relief breaking through the guarded expression. "I was reckless," she admitted. "I thought strength meant never showing weakness, but I was wrong. I endangered lives, including yours. Forgive me." The bard's fingers found the lute strings, weaving a quiet, haunting melody that seemed to seep into the night air, a soothing balm for wounds both seen and unseen. The music spoke of forgiveness and hope, of the courage it took to face one's own failings. Moved by the song and her admission, Leora reached out, her hand resting on his. "Thank you," she whispered, "for listening, for staying." That night marked a turning point, not just between them, but within Leora herself. The next day, in the council chamber, where walls bore the scars of political battles and whispered intrigues, she stood with renewed purpose. Her voice, once tempered by doubt, now rang clear and unwavering as she laid out a strategy forged from hard lessons and tempered resolve. "We cannot afford to be divided," she declared, locking eyes with hesitant nobles and wary commanders alike. "Our strength lies in unity, in learning from our past mistakes to forge a better future." Murmurs of assent rippled through the room, the seeds of trust beginning to take root once more. Eryndor stood beside her, silently lending his presence as a testament to their shared commitment. As days passed, Leora's leadership became a beacon for those wavering in the face of uncertainty. Her fierce protection transformed from a shield guarding her own fears into a guiding light inspiring others to rally. One morning, at the edge of a flowing stream bathed in the gentle glow of dawn, Eryndor and Leora found a rare moment of respite. The tension that had bound them loosened, replaced by laughter that danced like sunlight over water. "You've changed," Eryndor teased, plucking a playful tune on his lute. Leora smiled, the shadows of doubt lifted from her eyes. "So have you," she replied, her voice warm. "Perhaps this is the start of something new for both of us." Their shared laughter echoed among the trees, a melody of healing and hope that promised strength in the battles yet to come. The road ahead remained fraught with danger and sacrifice, but together they embraced the dawn with a renewed sense of purpose. And as the forgotten tune whispered through the leaves, its haunting notes now softened by the bonds they forged. Leora's redemption became not just a personal salvation, but a pivotal chord in the symphony of their intertwined fates. But even as hope blossomed, shadows stirred beyond the horizon, and the delicate balance of music and power awaited its next crescendo. The dawn crept softly across the horizon, brushing the sky with strokes of pale pink and gold that seemed almost otherworldly. I found Meili standing alone beneath the sprawling boughs of an ancient oak, her silver hair catching the gentle light like strands of pure starlight woven into the waking world. The air was crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of moss and earth, mingled with the distant murmur of a waking forest. I approached quietly, my footsteps muffled by the dew-kissed grass, careful not to disturb the fragile stillness that surrounded her. She turned to me with eyes that shimmered like the night sky, filled with the weight of centuries and the softness of 1,000 whispered secrets. "Eryndor," she began, her voice a delicate melody that seemed to merge naturally with the morning chorus of birds. "The time has come for me to depart. My purpose here is fulfilled, but the journey you must embark upon stretches far beyond my reach." I felt a pang in my chest, a mingling of gratitude and sorrow that threatened to choke my words. "Must you go now?" I asked, my voice barely more than a breath. "I am not yet ready to face the world without your guidance." Melis smiled, a serene expression that softened the lines of worry etched deep into my soul. "The lost language is not mine to keep, but yours to carry. It lives in the melodies you breathe, in the harmonies you weave. You have learned its essence, the delicate balance between power and sacrifice. It is a flame that must be nurtured carefully, lest it consume all it touches." We moved to sit beside a flickering campfire nestled among the scattered stones of ancient ruins, the very place where she had first revealed the vanished civilization's secrets to me. The embers glowed faintly, casting dancing shadows that seemed to echo the long-forgotten songs once sung here. Melis's voice lowered to a reflective hush as she shared her final insights into the lost language's fragile nature. "Each note, each phrase, is a thread woven into the fabric of fate," she said. "To command it is to hold the power of creation and destruction within your hands. But remember, the language is not merely a tool of control. It is a living testament to those who came before, a melody of memory and meaning. To preserve it, you must teach, not dominate. To share, not hoard." Her words settled over me like a gentle tide, filling the hollow spaces left by doubt and fear. Yet beneath the comfort, a heavy truth remained. With her departure, I was left to bear the burden of this knowledge alone. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with shadows that no song could fully dispel. From the edge of the tree line, Leora watched us silently. Her tall frame was cloaked in the dim light of early morning, her auburn hair braided tightly against the chill. I caught the faintest hint of a smile playing at the corners of her lips, a quiet acknowledgement of the bond forged through countless trials and shared sacrifices. Her fierce loyalty was a steady anchor amid the shifting tides of my spiraling descent. "She's leaving us," I said softly, glancing toward the fading silhouette of Melis, "and soon I must stand without her wisdom." Leora stepped forward, her green eyes steady and resolute. "You won't be alone, Eryndor. I'll stand by your side as long as you need. We face this together." The morning deepened, and the silver mist began to curl around Melis, rising from the earth like a living veil woven from moonlight. She stepped onto it with a grace that seemed to defy mortal bounds, the mist swirling and lifting her slowly away from the world she had guided me through. The air grew still, as if the very breath of the land paused to honor her passage. "Farewell, Eryndor," her voice echoed softly, carried on the gentle breeze. "Carry the song well." Her figure faded into the rising light, leaving behind a silence imbued with both loss and newfound resolve. The legacy of the lost language now rested squarely on my shoulders, a delicate flame that could either illuminate the path forward or consume all in its wake. I knelt by the dying embers of the fire, the warmth fading but the memory burning brightly within me. The weight of Melis's farewell pressed heavily on my heart, yet beneath the sorrow, a quiet hope began to take root. Hope that through understanding and compassion, the melody could become a song of healing rather than destruction. The music must live on, I whispered to the dawn, not as a weapon, but as a light. With Leora at my side and the wisdom of Meles etched into my soul, I rose to face the uncertain horizon. The journey was far from over, and the song we carried was far from complete. But in that moment, beneath the awakening sky, I vowed to honor the past by shaping a future where the lost language might finally find its true voice. As we turned away from the ruins, the soft strains of a new melody began to form in my mind, the gentle refrain woven from threads of sacrifice, memory, and hope. It was a song not of dominion, but of harmony, a quiet promise that even in the silence left by parting, the music endures. And so, with a heart both heavy and light, I stepped forward into the dawn, ready to write the next verse of our story. The morning sun spilled its pale light over the capital city, bathing the stone spires and wide plazas in a soft glow that seemed to whisper of new beginnings. In the heart of the city, preparations hummed with a quiet urgency as musicians tuned their instruments. Scribes unrolled scrolls of ancient notation, and citizens gathered in anticipation. This day was unlike any other. It was a day for healing, a day for harmony reborn. I stood behind the velvet curtain of the grand amphitheater, fingers lightly brushing the strings of my lute, the familiar tension and warmth grounding me. The forgotten tune, once a deadly burden, had been laid to rest, its power relinquished in sacrifice. Now I wielded something gentler, yet no less potent, a melody stitched from fragments of the lost language, reimagined to unite rather than command. Leora stood beside me, her steady presence a balm to my restless spirit. She caught my eye, a small nod passing between us, a silent vow that whatever came next, we faced it together. Beyond the stage, the crowd swelled, nobles from distant courts, wary soldiers, curious commoners, and old friends who had walked the jagged path of our recent turmoil. The air was thick with expectation, punctuated by the soft rustle of cloaks and the occasional murmur of voices. Queen Isilda had arrived early, her regal composure masking the deep concern I knew dwelled beneath. Her support had been pivotal, bridging divides between kingdoms and lending legitimacy to this fragile truce. As the first notes drifted from my lute, a hush fell over the amphitheater. The melody was tentative at first, each phrase a careful step, but soon it blossomed into a rich tapestry of sound. The lost language whispered through the harmonies, ancient and yet reborn, weaving threads of understanding and hope into the hearts of all who listened. Faces softened, eyes glistened with unspoken emotion. The music did not command, it invited, it embraced. Among the audience, Meles moved like a ghost of starlight, her silver hair a beacon as she shared quiet insights with eager young musicians, her presence a reminder of the wisdom we sought to preserve. Her eyes met mine briefly, conveying a depth of pride and sadness that only those who had borne the weight of the tune's curse could understand. Outside, the city seemed to breathe anew. Market stalls brightened, conversations blossomed, and even the wary guards lowered their weapons, caught in the melody's spell. Yet, in the shadows of a distant tower, King Maldron sat alone, the twisted iron crown abandoned beside him. His sharp eyes, once blazing with ruthless ambition, now held a flicker of bitter regret as rain traced paths down the stone windowpane. The power he had sought was gone, dissipated like a fading note, leaving only the hollow echo of his choices. The kingdom's future lay not in domination, but in the fragile harmony we had begun to rebuild. a delicate balance between past scars and hopeful tomorrows. When the final chord faded, a silence heavier than any applause settled over the crowd, filled with the weight of shared understanding. Then, slowly, hands lifted in tentative claps, swelling into a chorus of approval that echoed through the amphitheater and beyond. It was not a victory of might, but a triumph of spirit. As Leora and I stepped down from the stage, Queen Isildur approached, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "This is but the first step, Eryndor," she said softly. "The path ahead will be fraught, but today we have found a beacon in the dark." I nodded, feeling the heavy yet healing burden of hope settle within me. The lost language was no longer a weapon of control, but a song of unity, a fragile thread to bind fractured lands and hearts. Our journey was far from over, but with each note sung and each hand joined, the melody of peace grew stronger. And so, beneath the golden light of a tentative dawn, the kingdoms began to listen not to command, but to the quiet music that might one day rewrite our fates. I could only wonder, would this harmony endure, or would the silence that once threatened to claim me rise again? The answer, like all music, lay waiting in the next refrain.